Thank you very much, Dr. Point. Thank you for being with us today and supporting our conversation. We really appreciate that. And welcome again to everyone to this information session that BCAFN is hosting to share the information that we're aware of regarding next week's Papal visit events. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to go through the agenda for today, and you can see it up on your screen, and it was also shared out in the reminder notice for this information session. And just before I go into the agenda, I do want to share that we are recording this session so that those who are unable to attend will be able to have information and access to the information that we'll be sharing today. So we are recording the session for that purpose, but if there's at any point something you'd like to discuss that you don't have that comfort in being recorded, you can just let us know and we can look to stop the recording momentarily. So for the agenda today, we opened with our welcome and opening prayer, and we're going to be moving into a presentation where we'll share information related to the events, just providing a general overview of what's happening next week. We'll also touch on funding because we know there's been lots of questions around that, and we have some folks from the First Nations Health Authority who can help respond to any questions around that. Then we'll also be going over some information related to tickets, how to get tickets, and how to have your ticket ready for the day of the event, as well as information regarding transportation and logistics and the on-site supports that will be available for next week. And then we'll also have some time for some questions and answers. And of course, if we don't have the question or the answer for anything today, we'll be able to go back and respond to you after. And then we are aiming to close around 11, but if there are more questions and we need to stay past 11, we are certainly happy and available to do that. So with that, maybe I will move us on to the next slide. And I did see a comment around background noise, so we'll try to mute the background noise until after the presentation. And if you have questions as we're going through the presentation, you're able to note those in the chat as well, or just raise your hand and we will make sure to get to you when we can. So with that, I'll pass it over to my colleague, Sophia, to start with the presentation. Thanks, Sophia.
Thank you, Sarah. Hi, everybody. My name is Sophia. I'm the Regional Water Coordinator and Policy Analyst at the BC Assembly of First Nations, and I'll be walking alongside Sarah to help guide you through the presentation. I will also be in Edmonton next week for support. We'll talk a little bit more about what supports will be on site shortly here. So I'm just going to start with an events overview. I'm sure most of you are aware there are 3 events happening in the Edmonton area next week. There's, of course, more events out east, but we're going to focus on these particular 3 because these are the locations where there's been tickets set aside for survivors in BC. So on Monday, July 25th, the first event is going to be taking place at Maskwacis Bear Hills Park at 10 a.m. So just to let all folks know, all of these events there's no access to vehicle access to these events. So we are following the instructions from the AFN, in which has been directed that we must use the park and ride. So we'll talk a little bit about the ticket process in a moment, but there will be a ticket option when you're selecting your event on Ticketmaster. So this particular event, once again, is accessible through the park and ride only. And the deadline to secure tickets for this event is July 23rd. So that's tomorrow. The next day is the larger event. It's the open air mass at Commonwealth Stadium, and that's taking place at 10:15 a.m. So the information we've received is that guests are encouraged to arrive early, and those with floor tickets must be seated early. We haven't heard exactly how early, but I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, I would assume to be there about an hour early. just to be safe, because it's going to be very busy there. And just for folks to know, this particular stadium has a lot of policies in place. So there's going to be security checks in place as you go through the door. So just to be aware. The deadline for securing those tickets was yesterday, July 21st. However, BCAFN has secured a number of extra tickets. So for those who haven't secured tickets for the Commonwealth and have interest in attending, please do email the Papal Visit 2022 at bcafn.ca, or just let us know in the chat and we can get in touch with you to transfer you tickets. Just as a quick reminder, it is recommended that folks attend one of the 3 events just to make sure there's space for everybody. Just to keep that in mind. Also on July 26th in the evening, there's the pilgrimage to the Lac St. Anne site. Once again, the access to this venue will be via park and ride only. And so those who are wishing to camp or attend the pilgrimage must register with lacstandpilgrimage.ca. But you do also need to get your ticket on the Ticketmaster website as well. So it's a bit of an extra step there. But deadlines, the deadline to secure tickets on Ticketmaster is July 24th for that event. Just noting that those 2 events on the 26th, while they look like they're very far apart in terms of time frame, they're also very far apart in terms of your journey to get there. So it's also been indicated that groups are not able to attend both events. It's just not possible due to traffic and congestion. Now we do have, I believe, Virginia here from the First Nations Health Authority to just give a brief indication of where the funding process is at for survivors to obtain. I'm just going to give a quick overview of what we know and what information we've been shared, and then I'll just briefly turn it over to Virginia after this slide here. So it's, as I mentioned, the First Nations Health Authority has received confirmation of one-time funds to provide First Nations in BC, including the communities and organizations, with the flexibility to implement their own trauma-informed and culturally grounded responses to their survivors and members' needs, both before, during, and after the Papal visit. The First Nations Health Authority, I believe, has sent letters to communities confirming the funding allocations for these purposes. Just a note that self-governing and Treaty First Nations are going to be receiving their funding from Indigenous Services Canada. So those letters should have gone out already. And that information will be shared a little bit more with Virginia in just a moment. Just also note that there's a limited number of urban Indigenous organizations and organizations that serve Indigenous women, 2S, LGBTQIA+ people that also are eligible to receive funding. Note that former students and survivors in their communities are responsible for making their own travel arrangements, but those travel arrangements are eligible for reimbursement. So please note that BCAFN is not at all involved in providing funding or making arrangements for your travel accommodations. So BCAFN does not have any oversight on the funding piece or the travel arrangements. So just for a moment, I will turn it over to Virginia if she's in the room, just to touch on anything that I might not have and maybe just give a bit more of an update on where the funding process is.
Good morning. Virginia is on a national call right now, updating on what's happening with BC. My name is Lorraine Mazel. I work for First Nations Health Authority, and I can provide some updates on Virginia's behalf, if that's okay. So FNHA did not receive official notice that the funding was coming until very recently. We did manage to do a very quick turnaround on the funding to communities, and every community received a letter last week on Friday stating the amounts that their allocation is. We based the funding on what was provided by Indigenous Services Canada, and that was based on population. So we were able to send out letters of commitment. In our internal processes, we worked really hard and diligently to get communities funding. However, that didn't happen. Unfortunately, just we only had a few days notice, so we're hopeful that the letters of commitment will give people their budgets in terms of what they're working with. And we do know of several communities that went ahead and front-ended their IRS survivors to get to Edmonton. So what I know about our funding is everything has been sent in through to funding services for payment. So I believe that payment will go out within the next week, if not the week after that. So everything from that end has been done. If you have any questions, we have an email, which I'll put in IRS needs, and you can also call me and I'll put my phone number in the chat to help out with understanding how much you may have received. Since that happened, I've received several phone calls about the email being incorrect. A lot of times, just so you know, the funding formal agreements go to the chief of the community. So sometimes the health director isn't quite looped into that process. But I do have every community's amount and every community's letter in my in our system, so I have access to that now. I think the other piece in terms of the funding is we did allocate a small amount for 3 or 4 events that are happening in Nanaimo, Paris, and Prince George, and those are the Nanaimo events is being hosted by Towton Lalem, and the other 3 events are being hosted by the Indian Residential School Survivors Society. So there's been a poster circulating around for communities to access that. I also know several communities are traveling to those events rather than Edmonton, and are utilizing their funding to do that. I also am aware that there are many nations and many communities that have decided to do their own ceremony and their own cultural land-based healing gatherings locally for their IRS survivors. And we also just want to stress that this funding isn't meant to have such a quick turnaround. There's opportunity in the future to have maybe a celebration closer to September the 30th, which is the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. So there's lots of opportunity for healing and wellness. We really encourage everybody to do self-care, to take care, and yeah, it's been a very busy time for us here trying to get this sorted out, and we really apologize for the last minute, but like I said, the commitments didn't come in until very late from the funding providers, so we did the best we could. Also, I just wanted to note that when we travel, I'll be also in Edmonton. I'll leave my phone number, my cell phone number in the chat. We have access to health and cultural support. We went ahead and provided that service, and they're able to support on the ground in either Edmonton or Massachusetts. So I'll have their phone numbers. So if people want to organize some time with them, please give me a call and I'll do that. They are from the Indian Residential School Survivors Society and from Towton Lalem. There are a couple of nations under the IRS funding envelope that are bringing their own survivors. We have a Gitsan group from Gitmiao going, who are supporting their survivors that went to Ermineskin, that went to the Edmonton Indian Residential School. So they're going to be there and doing ceremony and calling back spirit and really bringing culture into their healing journey. And also we have another group that's Carrier that works with the Ada Dene Healing Society, which is again one of our IRSCA holders, and they will also be doing the same thing. They're really interested in hearing the apology for their healing and wellness journey, and I just really stress that there's a whole spectrum of ways in which people are doing their healing and their wellness, and we're very supportive of everything and all. So just, yeah, I'll put my name and my number in the chat and leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. I do see that folks' hands are up. Lorraine, if you're willing to stay until the end of the session, it might be the best for us to hold off on questions just to let the presentation finish, and then we can get right into the Q&A. Lorraine, would that be okay with you? Do you have time to stay around for the Q&A session?
I sure do.
Okay, so we'll continue on. Do hold your questions till the end. We promise we will get to you all. And then for those who might have commitments after 11, feel free to put your questions in the chat. Joanna or one of our BCAFN team will get your contact information and we can get back to you after via email or phone call. So I'll just continue on with the presentation. In terms of tickets, oops, sorry. In terms of tickets, it is a bit of a process to obtain tickets. Just hold on a moment there. Ignore that video for a moment. All tickets are going to be distributed through Ticketmaster. That is a website that sort of handles large events. So as we stated in the overview, there's the 3 events that we're focusing on today. That's the Commonwealth Stadium, the Masquachis Bear Hills Park, and the Lac St. Anne. And forgive me, I'm not sure why. Oh, sorry, I see what's happening here. The deadline for these tickets, that's what you're seeing highlighted in the purple. So the deadline was, as I mentioned yesterday, for Commonwealth Stadium. Once again, for those who are looking to attend Commonwealth and have not secured tickets, BCAFN has secured a number of tickets. And if you are still interested in attending, please do get in touch with us or just let us know in the chat and we'll be able to transfer tickets to you. The deadline for Masquachis is July 23rd. That's tomorrow to obtain your tickets through Ticketmaster. And Lac St. Anne will be on Sunday, July 24th. So for those who've already expressed interest in getting tickets through our BCAFN ticket process, you should have received your passcode via email from Papal Visit 2022@bcafn.ca to secure your tickets. So in that email, it gives you, while we apologize, a long list of instructions. It is a bit of a process to get these tickets. So we tried to describe it step by step. And I will walk everybody through how to get tickets in just a moment here through Ticketmaster. So just as an FYI, all tickets are free. In order to get your inner circle or outer circle tickets, so the tickets closest to the Pope, you'll have to use your passcode to secure them. And that gives you secured close-up seats as close-up as possible. So now in terms of the Ticketmaster process, as I mentioned, it's a bit of a step-by-step process. The first thing to note is that Ticketmaster requires you to have an account in order to secure tickets. Ticketmaster will also require all ticket holders to download the Ticketmaster app in order to be confirmed into a venue. Now that means you can also link your tickets with someone else. So if you're going in a group of 8, only one person needs the app. They have to have those 8 tickets on their phone and they'll get scanned in alongside your whole party to get into the venue. Multiple ticket holders, as I mentioned, can be admitted in with one device. So I recognize that this sounds really complex, so I'd like to walk you through how to get tickets online. And then I'll also show you this short video in how to download the app. I know it can be really daunting if you're not technology savvy. So just give me a moment. I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen and get the Ticketmaster website up. So you're going to go to, while I'm already on the website, I'll just show you how to go to there from the start. I'm going to go to ticketmaster.ca. And this probably won't show up for you. So you're going to go into the search bar and you're going to type in Papal Visit and click search. And you'll see here is the Papal Visit. There's that logo. Keep in mind, that's the official logo for the Papal Visit. And you're going to see here, there's the options. And as we mentioned, there's the July 25th and July 26th events. So let's just, for the sake of it, go to Commonwealth Stadium. So you're going to see tickets. And these tickets are what's left and available. However, the access code or the passcode that you receive, you would click this unlock button and you would enter the code. So for this case, it was BC2K32. That's for the inner circle tickets. I'm not going to click on it because as I mentioned, those offers, those passcodes expired, but that's where you would click unlock. Now it's not letting me because again, that expired. So I'm just going to go back. And for the sake of it, this is where the general admission is, but you would decide where you'd like to sit. So the blue areas are indicating that there are tickets left, and you're going to just click it. And the blue seats are what's available. So let's just say we want this one and this one. You're going to select the two you see here. It's section 12, row 74, seat 1 and 2, and you're going to click next. Now, I just realized that I'm somehow logged in. So at this point, it would ask you, if you're not logged in, it's going to ask you to log in. If you don't have a Ticketmaster account, you're going to have to click the sign up button. There's going to be a small sign up button, and it's just going to get your information. So your name, your address, and get you to enter in a password, and you'll be logged in. So then this particular site will show up once you've confirmed your tickets. Now, this is a Papal visit donation, and we just wanted to flag that for folks. This was authorized through the organizers, which is the Canadian Catholic Church Bishops organization. And so we just wanted folks to know that that wasn't authorized by BCAFN or AFN, but that we also wanted to flag that this would be going, these are donations to the Catholic Church. So if you have an interest in doing that, great, you can add your donation. You do not have to add anything in order to secure your tickets. And so once you're for sure that this is what you want, you'll click next. And it's just going to confirm it again, and you're going to click next again, just noting that it's a $0 ticket. So once again, it just wants to know your name of your party. So I'm going to put my name in, and it does want your address. Once again, it's not going to bill you. And you're going to have to click two boxes. One is I accept the privacy information. One is to accept their terms of use, and you're going to place your order. Now, I just secured those tickets. I'm going to actually undo that because I don't need them, but that will go to your email address and you'll be set up to have those tickets secured. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen once again. And I will just show you now the next steps really quickly. I know it's a long process on how to download the app. And just a moment here. Okay. So you're going to go, this is just to note, this is my iPhone, so it's a little bit different on an Android device, but what you're looking for is your app store. They're very similar buttons. And so you're going to click on the app store. And I apologize that the screen's not bigger. It's just very long. So you're going to go into your search function and you're going to look for either Ticketmaster, just type in Ticketmaster or Ticketmaster Canada, and just select either or, it'll come up with the same thing. And you're gonna click this download button, this little cloud button, and you're gonna click that button and let it load. And sorry, this took a moment on my phone to download. One moment here. I'm just gonna exit out here for a moment. So once it's loaded, it does take a few moments. It'll open the app right away, and you'll see this screen where it's kind of fancy and there's a lot of flashing things. And you're just going to click that next button on the ground, or on the bottom, until it says sign in. And so you're going to take that sign in information that you inputted on your computer. So whatever email address you associated and whatever password you chose, you're going to input that into this sign in function here and type that all in and press sign in. And so you're going to get in there. Again, it's going to be a bit overwhelming. There's going to be a lot of info. Might be some pop-ups in which you can just go through them. And once you click through those pop-ups, you're going to see your tickets. And this is what the ticket's going to look like. So basically, you can click this view barcode piece, which is what you're going to need at the gate. You can look at the ticket details, which you can click here. And if you want, let's just say you've got your own tickets and you want to attend with a party, you can also transfer your tickets to that party so you can all be on one device if you want. This also goes the same for the park and ride. So you will need to select your park and ride for the events. And this is where it'll pop up for when you need to go to the transportation place to get to the venue. So just as an FYI. And I know this is quite overwhelming. Even for myself, I think it was a bit of a difficult process, but I'll also get to the slide in a few moments that describes what we will be doing on site. BCAFN staff will be there on site, and we will be there to help you download that app if you need that information. So I'm just going to share my screen one more time. Apologies for all the pop-ups. So this is by far the most difficult process to deal with. And again, feel free to ask more questions once we get to the Q&A period. Now, just some logistical pieces on transportation. I think Sarah is going to take it over past this point. Sarah is going to guide you through the entire transportation process, which is also a bit of a lengthy process. So I'll turn it back over to Sarah to talk about that.
Great. Thanks so much, Sophia, for providing that overview of how to access your tickets through Ticketmaster and how to make sure you can get your tickets on the app for the day of. So now we're going to shift a little bit into a review of how transportation is working for each of the 3 events. So just generally as an overview, there is no parking on site for any of the events. So that's something to keep in mind when you're making your arrangements. There are a couple different ways that you can make sure you get to the event. The park and ride arrangement is going to be a big one. So essentially for each of the events at Masquachis and Lac St. Anne, there will be park and ride locations where you can come via your personal vehicle, and then you'll arrive there and there'll be shuttles available to transport you the remaining distance to the actual site of the event. Another option is if you're traveling with a group and you have a group bus or a shuttle, what you can do is arrange to arrive at one of the park and rides, and your bus will go through a security screening and a checklist, and then your bus will be able to proceed to the actual event sites. But you need to stop at the park and ride locations first to go through a screening process. And so we'll go into that in a little bit more detail shortly, but just to reiterate, no vehicles other than the designated shuttle buses or your group buses will be allowed at the Masquachis and Lac St. Anne locations. And as Sophia mentioned, when you get your tickets through Ticketmaster, that's when you'll choose which park and ride location you would like to attend. So there are 4 to 5 different locations available that you can choose from. And they're also encouraging carpooling to the park and ride location. So if you know someone who is also going to be there, I think it would just help save space because they're anticipating a lot of people. So if you can carpool, that's great. And then just a special note on transportation for the Commonwealth Stadium, which is a little bit different. But there is also no parking on site at Commonwealth Stadium. So what you can do is take transit. They're really encouraging people to take public transit that day. It will be free for anyone who is traveling to Commonwealth Stadium to attend the Mass. And they are strongly encouraging people to arrive by 8:30 a.m. to ensure that you can be seated and access your seats before the event gets started. In this slide, there's also a link where when we send this PowerPoint around after, you'll be able to click on it. But basically, it just leads to a City of Edmonton website where they provide more information around alternatives to maybe parking nearby to the Commonwealth Stadium, information on public transit and what other options you might have if you're able to stay close by. That could also be helpful. So there's more information on the Commonwealth Stadium website and the City of Edmonton website when it comes to Commonwealth Stadium. So I'll just go over to the next slide. We'll be looking specifically at how transportation will be working for the Lac St. Anne site. Let's see. I think actually, Sophia, maybe the titles are confused between the Lac St. Anne and the Masquachese slides. So maybe go to the first one that says Lac St. Anne. And so this is actually for Masquachese. Sorry about that. So for Masquachese, you'll want to arrive at the park and ride locations between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. So I know this is very early in the morning and it's set up to potentially be a long day, but they're really just wanting to ensure that everyone is able to arrive at the park and ride, get on their shuttle bus and arrive at the site in time for the event. So if you can plan to arrive between those times at whatever park and ride you've selected, that would be ideal. And as I mentioned earlier, if you are arriving by your personal vehicle, you'll need to register that and select that when you go through Ticketmaster. And as well, if your group is coming on a bus, you must stop at the park and ride location for security screening. And then you'll receive a placard that will allow your bus to proceed to the Masquachese grounds. And so we are expecting to receive more information for group buses today, and we'll be sure to circulate that so that any groups who are planning to arrive by a bus or a shuttle can have that information. And I do just see a comment in the chat about whether this presentation was provided to everyone. And we sent it out to everyone who had pre-registered or whose email addresses we had before a certain point tomorrow or yesterday. But we will be sending it out again to everyone who we have on our contact list to make sure they have this updated PowerPoint and that you can click on the different links that are in the slides. So moving on to transportation for Lac St. Anne, it's kind of similar in format to the transportation for Masquachese in that they're really encouraging people to arrive as early as possible, even between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. to start transporting people from the park and ride locations to the site at Lac St. Anne. And again, if you're arriving at the park and ride and you're planning to park there and then take one of their shuttles, please indicate that through Ticketmaster when you register. And then, or when you access your tickets. And then if you're taking a group bus, again, you'll need to go through a security checkpoint there in order to get your group bus verified so that it can actually proceed all the way to Lac St. Anne. So perhaps moving on to the next slide. Another piece of information we wanted to share is just that if you are thinking of flying or you wanted to make those arrangements, Air Canada has provided special fare for anyone who's going to be attending to travel to either Edmonton or Quebec for the Papal events. And so that can be, these codes can be used to receive a discount of up to 25%. So we just wanted to share that information in case it's helpful. And at this point, I'll turn it back over to Sophia to provide some more information around the types of on-site supports that will be available and share a bit more information of how BCAFN is planning to be there to support folks. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. We are almost wrapping up, so we will get to your questions for those we haven't gotten to yet, and hopefully this slide might help answer some of those. So the information we've been provided by others, including the AFN, is that first aid and paramedic services will be available at all the events. In addition to that, mental health supports will also be available at each event. We've also been told that there'll be a hydration station and light snacks that'll be available for those who need it, but you are encouraged to bring your own supplies. So noting that it's going to be potentially a really warm day on each of these days, it would be good to pack a little bit of water, sunscreen, a hat if you can, especially for the outdoor events. But they are assuring us that there will be some supplies provided on site. Just as some additional information, there's going to be a community gathering space with healing activities, light refreshments, circle sharing, elder support, ceremony, and access to the live stream Papal visit, which will be at MacEwan University. There's also going to be community and social work support available at all of the event locations, in addition to MacEwan University and the Indigenous Peoples Experience. So more information on those side events are available on the City of Edmonton's website. In terms of what BCAFN is doing, we will have a support team, including myself, at each of the events. We're not sure where we can set up, so we are going to be ensuring that some of us are wearing our BCAFN shirts. We're hoping to put up a bit of a banner or something where you can see us and spot us near the entrance if you're needing any support directly at the events. Again, it's really difficult for us to figure out logistics in terms of where we will be because we haven't seen where these events are yet and how security measures will be in place, but we will aim to be there and be visible at each event for you. In addition, we will be hosting a drop-in session on Sunday, July 24th from 10 till 5 p.m. at the Westin Edmonton. So that's downtown Edmonton. It's near a number of hotels and it's located, the meeting room will be located in the Leduc room for anyone who needs assistance. So we can support you with getting your tickets all ready on your phones. We can try to support you with logistics and mapping and transportation if we can. Again, we're going to do the best that we can with the resources we have. To reiterate, BCAFN has not been involved in the planning process in any of the Papal visit planning. So we are trying to be as supportive as we can with the sort of limited information that we've received. But we will be there on site. Again, myself and a number of staff will be there to support you if you need it in Edmonton.
Charlene.
Now, in terms of related events, as we mentioned, there will be events which are posted on the City of Edmonton website. Again, when we upload this presentation, you can actually just click this website link and it'll take you there. But so just for folks who know residential school survivors and intergenerational survivors, there are opportunities for safe spaces for community gatherings, which I mentioned in the previous slide. And there are also places to access for ceremony and community healing. And so those events, those side events are on the City of Edmonton website, and they're in various locations around Edmonton. So we have finally gotten to the end of our presentation. We recognize that this is a lot of information. We did say, of course, that we're happy to stay on past 11 for those who are able to attend and get your questions answered. For those who have to take off at any point, once again, if you can put your question in the chat and let us know how we can get a hold of you, we can do our best to follow up. We, of course, as I mentioned, have not been involved in the planning process, so we may not have all your questions answered today. We will do our best to get everything answered as best as we can, though. So I will open up the floor. I know there's many folks who have questions. Perhaps we can do a raised hand function and go from there. Chief BCAFN.
Handslap, Yerickson Runwin and Squash Lease Behan Cook Bevan Select Cook in the Cup Nation. Hello and good morning. Lease Behan Chief the Co-Water Band. Thank you, Elder Gwendolyn Point, for the opening prayer and song this morning. Gukshtem. I was speaking with our coordinator who's facilitating the trip. We're leaving on Sunday. But it was brought to my attention when we went to get tickets for the July 25th event. The tickets that were given to us were for July 26th. So how do we fix that problem? Because we're traveling a long distance to be there to hear the Pope apologize, and yet the tickets were being mixed up. How can we fix that?
Sarah, you might have more info than I do. I'll let you take that over. I'm just polishing up our presentation to send out to folks. So just one moment.
Sure. Yeah, Chief Spahan, if you want, we can get in touch with your coordinator and help facilitate access for the event that you are interested in attending. There should still be tickets available for the site visit to Masquachis, which is the July 25 event. And then if you've already secured tickets through Ticketmaster for the event on the 26th that you don't want to attend, it would be great if you could either transfer those tickets to someone else so you know who wants to attend, or you can transfer them back to BCAFN and we'll have them as backups for people who might need them on the day of. So how does that sound?
Yeah, okay. Do I get in contact with you, Sarah, or?
Sure, yes, you can email me. I can put my email in the chat, and I think you might have it as well.
Yeah, I have your email. I will email you our assistant who is helping coordinate the trip, so that way we can get these tickets straightened out. So I want to make sure that they attend the event where the Pope apologizes. So
Sounds good. Thank you. I'll keep an eye out for that email.
Thank you.
I see a question in the chat, and apologize. I know there's lots of questions happening here, but I just see this. How do I transfer tickets to BCAFN? So once you've secured tickets, you can log back into your account either through the app or more easily through the website. And if you select your tickets, there will be a button, a big blue button that says transfer. So if you click that button, it will ask you for an email. for who you want to transfer the tickets to. And I'm just going to put our email address in there again. So if you get it sent to Papal Visit 2022 at bcafn.ca, that is correct, right, Sarah? Okay.
Yes, I just popped it in the chat as
Oh,
well.
perfect. Perfect. So if you get those tickets transferred back to that email address, we will receive it and we can reallocate them. Do other folks have some questions if you want to raise your hands? I know I'm just wanted to check in, Sarah, did we get most of the questions answered that are in the chat?
Yeah, I mean, I know staff have been responding to lots of the questions. I know there is a question around accessibility at the different sites. We don't have a lot of information around that, but we know that it's something that has been raised. And so what we can do is follow up and try to get a bit more information. I would hope that some of the park and ride shuttles are equipped to take accessibility and mobility things into account, such as for those who are using wheelchairs. But that's something that we can follow up on to get more information. And I see that question was from Rose and potentially others, so we'll be sure to send a message out with any information we have on that. And I see Heather has also raised her hand. Heather?
Hi, Denise 8, Zachos 8, Skies 8, Saisozi Heather Newski. I come from Wet'suwet'en First Nation, and we are also taking our survivors from our nation to Musqueam. I heard you guys say that we can just use one device. Like, how many people can we use on the one device? We also got the park and ride tickets based on how many vehicles are going. So the other question too is I selected the one for Wetaskiwin and it says the AG. I don't know exactly where that is, but those are my questions. Misai.
In terms of the park and ride, I just want to confirm you need to select as many tickets for park and ride as you have folks going. So if there's 8 in your party, select 8. And then just to reiterate, what was your question about the location? Are you trying to figure out where that location is particularly?
Yeah, I don't know if that's where the museum is or I just wanted to make sure that we're going to the right place because if it starts at 10 and we need to arrive early, we just need to know exactly where it is.
Okay. I think we're still trying to work out those locations as well. What I've done is copied and pasted those locations into Google Maps to make sure for sure that we're going to the right place. Just to reiterate though, is that once you get to the park and ride, you'll get on a bus that takes you. And there are those times that Sarah lined out that you have to arrive quite early in order to get on that bus. So for example, with Musqueam, I believe the last bus leaves at 7 a.m. So you do have to arrive early. So perhaps staff can take a look at those park and ride. You know what, I will commit to sending out a map. I'll try to get a map of each of the park and ride areas so that you have an understanding for sure of where each one is, if you find that helpful. As for the tickets to go onto one device, to my understanding, there's no limit of tickets that you can transfer onto one device. The only limitation is that you can only secure, I believe, up to 10 tickets to purchase on Ticketmaster. So there's a limit to how many tickets you can secure, but there's no limit to how many tickets you can put onto one device once they're purchased. Okay.
All right. Yeah, because we have about 15 with the elders and the chaperones. And that was just my only concern. She was trying to send me the park and ride pass to my vehicle. And then I have to sign into my Ticketmaster But I know there's going to be a lot of people that aren't tech savvy. So it's very helpful that you guys are doing that. So I'm gonna say.
And for those, and again, we had a brief presentation today, but for those who are able to make it, we do encourage you to come into the drop-in session at the Westin on Sunday. Again, we can really try to help you hands-on with the logistical questions that you have, and make sure that those tickets are on your phone and that you know exactly where you're going. And again, if for those who can't make it on Sunday, do look out for the BCAFN staff at each of the event. Again, we're not sure where we're able to set up, but we will try to be as visible as possible to help you. Chief Liesbehan.
Yeah, I was looking at the chat. In regards to the weather over there, would it be safe to say that to let our elders know to take umbrellas and possibly a light blanket? That would be good when we're going through security, correct?
Yeah, I believe that should be fine. Let me also commit to looking, the only arena that would potentially be an issue would be the Commonwealth Stadium. They do have a lot of policies on what you can and can't bring in, but I believe a blanket and an umbrella is totally fine. I will follow up with you, Chief Spahan, and confirm that that's okay to bring, or at least confirm what's not okay to bring at the Commonwealth Stadium. For the outdoor events, that is totally reasonable, and we do recommend, I think that's a good idea, to let elders know to bring those things.
Yeah, I think that's really good too. And I like the comment in the chat about the maps. I think that would be very helpful for the park and ride for our chaperones, because we do have chaperones that are taking their own vehicles, and that way we can make it available for them for when they park their vehicles or for the park and ride. So, Cookstown.
Could be Michael.
Good morning, everybody. I just thank Gwendolyn for the prayer and the song. It was awesome. Thanks Sarah and Victoria too for helping me navigate my way through Ticketmaster to get the tickets. What I did not secure was the park and ride. So I don't know where I have to park and ride. I know where I want to go from. I want to go from the Wetaskiwin, the museum site. I have my elders and a group of elders from Frog Lake Cahuin are kind of going as a bunch. So there's like 8 in my group and I think 6 in their group. So if you can help me get park and ride tickets for my 8, I think they got theirs done correctly. I would appreciate it a lot. But again, thank you for this morning. It was very informative.
Cookpea, I will, either myself, Sarah, or Victoria will follow up with you in how to secure those park and ride tickets for the museum location today. Jesse.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, thank you, Gwen, for the prayer this morning. Jesse Jim from Songhees Nation on Vancouver Island. I did take a quick look at the stadium restrictions because I was worried about the water and snacks, because most places don't let you bring in that, but it's anything under 1 liter, anything a liter or over, I just checked. So that's one question. And I have the same problem as the person who spoke previously. I got the tickets, but I didn't secure a spot for the park and ride. I'm in Edmonton, downtown, I think. So there are, I believe, 8 of us. So I'll need 8 spots on the park and ride. So I was going to take, I did take a look at the Edmonton City and the link that you provided. There are a list of park and rides there. So I could take a look, and I just don't know how to, I guess, I don't know if it's like reserving a spot.
Yeah, so that would go through Ticketmaster. Jesse, can you just send me a direct message if you know how to do that on Slack, or sorry, I have many apps happening here, on Zoom. If you select my name, if you can give me your email address, I'll follow up with you on how to get those park and ride tickets after the session.
And then I'm just curious, do you know how long these events are? Like when it starts and when it ends approximately?
We're told they're 1 hour in length.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we gotta get up early for that.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I'll send you a message now.
Elmer?
Thank you. I'm Elmer Frank. I'm the Chief Counselor for Cloquet First Nations. Just so everyone's aware, we are suffering and starting to see a lot of COVID cases in Tofino. That's where we're from, located in Tofino, and Tofino is located in the traditional territory of Cloquet. But there's a lot of COVID cases that are happening, and I was just wanting to know if there's any protocols or anything that our nation should be concerned about. If we start, there's probably going to be, I don't know, a group of 4 to at least 9 to 10 of Cloquet members that will be going. But I was just wanting to know if there's protocols in place that you might be aware of that we should be considering.
If one of the BCAFN staff are able to just look at the Commonwealth Stadium policies in place right now, we can get that answered. For the outdoor events, I predict that there are no specific policies in place, except for the fact that social distancing would be encouraged as much as possible. Of course, these are going to be full events. From my understanding, with Alberta's current COVID protocols, I predict that masks are optional at the Commonwealth Stadium, but we'll get that confirmed right away. So we hear you, and there are certainly concerns about the uprising in COVID cases. I would just suggest that those who are comfortable with attending these events to take those precautions as best as they can. Bring hand sanitizer if you can, although I'm sure there will be some at the Commonwealth facilities. Of course, we do encourage you to wear your mask. N95 masks, the certified masks that go right around your face, are the most helpful, but any mask would certainly help you as well. But to my understanding, there's no indoor mask mandates at this time in Alberta.
Okay, and then just for flights, for example, if we're going to use a flight, there'd be random testing happening, in particular from Air Canada, starting as of last Tuesday, right?
That's for international flights only.
Oh, okay.
So, in Canada, there's no testing, no mandatory testing either before or after your flight.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Do we have more questions from folks in the chat? For those who are direct messaging me, I'm just, I have seen your messages and I will attend to them after our meeting. Heather, just to confirm, the last bus to Maspachis from Wetsasquin is 7 a.m. Sarah, can you confirm that?
Yeah, so as I said, they're encouraging everyone to arrive between 5 and 7 a.m. Just to give enough time to get to the site. So perhaps there might be shuttles, leaving shortly after that, but I don't think it's guaranteed. So I would really encourage people to arrive within that time frame that they specify, just to make sure that you can board a shuttle bus and have enough time to get to the event. I think, as we noted earlier, each of the events is only about an hour long. So I think definitely good to get there before, in good time before things get started. So. I see Jessie from Songkeys has their hand up again. Jessie?
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up with Elmer's comment about the Well, mine is more around vaccination. I flew to the Yukon in May and I still had to provide proof that I was vaccinated. Do you know anything about that for flying within Canada?
I will check. Do you know that answer, Sarah?
Anybody who came forward and wanted to go next week, I did double check with them, and we're all vaccinated, but you know, I guess that's a thought for everybody if they're flying.
Let me check.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I did just look that, and it says on the Government of Canada's website that proof of vaccination is no longer required to board a plane or train in Canada. But that is interesting information. Perhaps some provinces or territories still might have their own regulations in place, but federally, and I believe to most of the provinces at least, you don't need to provide that proof.
Okay, thank you.
Any other folks with questions that we may have missed in the chat? Again, for those who may have direct messaged me, I will look at those after, but I promise you I'll get back to all of your questions and follow-ups. I think what I'm hearing as well is it would be good for BCAFN to send out a follow-up email with an FAQ sheet. So some general information, including maps of the park and ride sites, and just some extra info that's been asked today that we can sort of compile onto one document for you to review. So we will commit to doing that today and getting that out to you as soon as possible, ideally by the end of the day.
And Sophia, maybe what we can do is just turn it back quickly to Dr. Point, just to kind of close this off for today. And then if there's any kind of lingering comments or questions or exchanging of contact info, we can do that, because I know Dr. Point has to sign off shortly.
Isn't enough, but I know for me, when I heard the Prime Minister apologize, it's freeing somewhat, because all the years that certainly I was angry or I was hurt and I was afraid, those feelings lifted, because you realize, one, you did not do anything wrong, because people always made us feel like we were the bad guys. We were the ones that did the wrong. We were the ones that should be ashamed. And so the apology was huge in that it was like a freeing, that those chains or those thoughts were lifted. And so I am grateful to each and every one that has a role in making sure all those that need to be there are there. And my prayer is for safe travel for everyone. And that peace of mind and peace of heart that's needed will be there, will be gifted to each one. And I want to say as well, when you turn fear around, it's courage. And that's what I've witnessed throughout my lifetime in our communities, is courage. And when you turn that hurt and anger and sorrow around, it becomes a strength. And that, of course, is my prayer for each one, is that the strength is returned to you. And that peace of mind and peace of heart is restored. And with that, I'm going to share a traveling song.
Working to follow up on all of the questions that we weren't able to answer today. And we've made a note of the contact information that has been shared, and we'll make sure we add that to our list when we send out the frequently asked questions form. And if there are any last minute questions or people who need to provide their contact information, we'll leave the Zoom open just a few more minutes for people to do that. But thank you, and hope everyone has a good weekend.
Thank you to all the staff of the BCAFN for putting this call together and trying to help us all out to make sure that this trip goes smoothly. Cook stem.
Thanks very much, Chief Spahan.